Welcome to our podcast. My name is Shadi Daoud. I am the digital marketing manager here at PWHI Home Improvement. Today's topic is permits requirements for building decks and patios and screen rooms. We picked this topic today because it is one of our most frequently asked questions by our customers, and I couldn't think of a better person to speak to other than Sherry DiCostanzo. Thank you for joining us today. Sherry, could you tell us a little bit about what you do here at PWHI Home Improvement?
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
I'm the operations manager for PWHI Home Improvement. Basically, the operations manager oversees our pre-production department, where we do the permitting and the homeowner HOA approvals for the permitting and HOA process. And I also am responsible for the installation department. So once we have a permit, it goes to our installation department. The job is built, and then once it's completed, our quality assurance department will do a final walkthrough, and until completion.
Great. So, what would be the first steps in obtaining a permit? I understand there are different ones, but so what would be the first steps?
Well, the first step would be to take a look at the property address and the property, determine which county the permit is in, and then also determining what zoning district it's in.
Right.
There's certain zoning regulations, and it could change from one property in the same subdivision to the next. Also, you want to take a look at, there's different requirements for well and septic. There's different requirements if you're in a floodplain, if you're in a resource protected area. Each county has so many different pieces, and you could tell by what you're zoned, what steps that you would need to take.
Right. And for us here at PWHI Home Improvement, what license do we have and what license do our contractors have?
The license that we have a Virginia and Maryland, whatever state that we're in, we've got the state license. Mm-hmm. And then depending on the county, each county requires a business license.
Right. Our
subcontractors that we use are required to have workman's compensation insurance, and that protects our customer. You know, if something were to happen on the job or one of the workers were to get hurt,
right,
it's covered. It's not on them. A lot of people don't realize that if you have someone work on your property and they do not have workman's compensation insurance, right, that can be a claim on your homeowner's insurance.
Right. That's true. And so for different states and countries have requirements as far as displaying the permits. What's that like usually?
Well, the counties do require, once a permit is issued, that you have the permit placed in a front-facing window or door to the street. So it would have to be placed somewhere visible for the inspector. You would also have your plans, your approved plans, your approved zoning, and any manufacturer spec reports. They're called ICCES reports. They would need to be on the back where the project is. So when the inspector comes to the home to inspect the project, they see the building permit on the front of the house. They go around to the project, and all the pertinent information is right there for them to view when they're doing the inspection.
Great. And I know you've touched on this a little bit earlier, but the special zoning requirements, can you give us a little bit more about that?
Well, you have, in different counties, some will have, if it's zoned in, an example would be Prince George's County. Mm-hmm. There is a new zoning amendment that started on April 1st, just out of the blue, and it's a legacy district. Okay. So if you live in one of the properties that's zoned a legacy district, you have to have special plats. You have to go through a plan development process. You basically have to go through a review board. And that's something that you want to notice right away.
Right.
If you apply to the county and then the permit is in the county for weeks, and all of a sudden you get a rejection, something that you need to be ahead of the game on.
Right.
And here at PWHI Home Improvement, we have access to all the zoning districts for all the counties and states that we service, and we were able to see that up front.
Awesome. And I guess the $1,000,000 question: how long do the permits usually take?
Well, it depends on what's involved in it. It depends on your property.
Right.
You can have one that could possibly go through in certain counties in a week if the county is on the game and everything that you submit is correct.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a problem with the plat not being to scale or your plans not being approved for the county. Mm-hmm. And then you have some where it actually can get to a point where you're within a setback issue with your property and you're trying to push it through a variance. It could take 6 months, 6 to 9 months.
Wow. Yeah. So basically going off from there, how do we here at Prince William Home Improvement make sure that the permits process just goes smoothly?
Well, it doesn't always go smoothly, but what we do in the beginning is we find out what the requirements are. Mm-hmm. So if it is something that we can't build a certain size due to a setback, we immediately let our customer know that these are the zoning requirements and we need to take it back a foot. We do the research ahead of time, knowing the zoning districts and what's required. If we see that there's a well that's septic on the plat or it's on the property, we know the correct paperwork to submit initially with the building permit.
Right. So we know ahead of time so that we're not gonna build this, basically.
Exactly. And we, any required documentations that go into, that are required for the permit, we submit them before it comes back as a rejection and then has to go through the process again.
Is that something that we do before the planning and building, like the basically before like the salesperson knows what to sell, or is that something that, or like the designers?
Well, there's certain pieces that the designer would know. We train our designers and to look out for specific things that are overall general. Mm-hmm. Like a 25-foot setback for a project that has a roof, a screen porch, a deck, screen room. Mm-hmm. And then what they will do is if there's a question on the property that they're not 100% aware of, but there's a concern, they will call into the pre-production department and find out while they're out speaking to the customer. Right,
which is the best way to do it, obviously, because then you would have it's not like we give the customer, here's a plan, this is what we're going to do, and then a couple of weeks later, we'll be like, actually, we can't do that. So
correct.
Yeah.
Awesome. We know what we can and can't do for the most part ahead of time.
Awesome. And I guess so once we obtain all the required permits, what would be the next step?
Once we obtain all the correct permits, then we would pass the pre-production department would inform installation and our customer that the project is ready to be installed. Our installation department will contact our customer and set an installation date. And then when they set the installation date, they give the installation department will let our customer know what the next steps of the project are, an approximate time frame to completion.
Okay. And I guess the last question would be, how does HOA have anything to do with permits? And if they do, what is it?
Well, HOA, there are certain areas, it's not all, but there are certain areas that require HOA approval before a permit will be issued. A prime example is certain condominiums or townhome areas in Prince William County and Charles County. There is also the reverse. There are some homeowners associations that will not approve the application for the homeowner until a permit is received. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have a list of all the neighborhoods and all of the homeowners associations and what their requirements are. And we know that we cannot apply for a permit in certain communities until we have a HOA approval and vice versa.
Okay, great. I think that covers about everything. So thank you so much for joining us today. I I think this gives our customers a lot of insight to how we manage to do things here at Prince William Home Improvement. And I'd like to thank you for taking the time to do this with me today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.